listen, this makes no sense. This fit doesn't make sense. This is about trying to tread water while Klay Thompson's out. This is about getting something rather than nothing except for a massive trade exception for Kevin Durant walking out the door. This is about a brand new multi-billion-dollar arena you are about to open in San Francisco and not having the Warriors 30 games into that arena be 14-16. That's what this is about. This is not about long-term planning. And one can argue, for long-term planning purposes, what you gave up for D'Angelo, which is 2 first-round picks and Andre Iguodala. That's the total cost.
Yes.
It's multiple transactions, but if you had just let Kevin Durant walk out that door, you would have 2 first-round picks and D'Angelo Russell. If you had just let Kevin Durant walk out that door and attached a second-round pick to him in some form of sign and trade, you would have 2 first-round picks, Andre Iguodala, and a trade exception. Like what you gave up to get D'Angelo Russell was substantial, and it's not just the fit once Klay comes back. It's the loss of Iggy off the court, in the locker room, when you now have left on that roster 3 guys, because Livingston's going to be gone as well, 3 guys who have been to all these finals. Steph, Klay, who's hurt, and Draymond, who wants a contract extension, and I do not believe is going to be offered the max contract extension he believes he deserves. For all those reasons, this is, to me, not as cut and dry as some would make it seem.
You're also giving up the thing that made the Warriors who they were a couple years ago, and that's defense. I mean, this is not adding more defense to your roster. It's adding more offense, whether he fits in or not. And right now, losing Iggy, you'd think they'd want to shore up that defense.
That's a great point. And basketball fans who have looked at the Warriors over the last 5 years, 4 of those years, they've been exceptionally defensively. Yeah, we talk about their three-point shooting. We talk about their ball movement. We talk about those things. But at the end of the day, the reason why they've been so dominant is because what they do on the defensive end, and they've been consistent with it. You can't do that with Steph and D'Angelo Russell. That is just not their skill set. Now, is Steve Kerr and Bob Myers, are they going to create a new brand of basketball? Because that's the really only sell here. And Nick is right. This is just a bluff. This is a placeholder. This is to try to entertain the people, the Harlem Globetrotters, like, we're not going to be real good, but we are going to be fancy to start the season. And this is until Klay is able to get healthy, because if you look at the West, and I know the reason why I think they traded for him was because they thought someone else, potentially Minnesota or someone else, was going to get in the game with Brooklyn and get a deal. So they didn't think he was going to be just a free agent where they could just sign him. So they jumped in there and did the sign and trade for KD. But to me, this is not a championship basketball. These are not the building blocks. This is just another way to be able to get an asset, hold the asset until I can trade it, because D'Angelo Russell, he has totally changed his image. There are a lot of people in the NBA who would like to see him, on their basketball team, and he's only 23.
Right. He's got real value. And so what do I think happens? I think at some point D'Angelo Russell is traded for a package to Minnesota that's centered around Robert Covington, some picks. You get younger, you get longer, you add some defense. That makes sense. But D'Angelo Russell was other than I think Kemba Walker, most pick-and-roll centric player in the league, going to a team that doesn't like to run the pick-and-roll.
How many pick and rolls did they run last year as a team?
So I think it's 928 for D'Angelo and 940 for Golden State as a team.
The whole team.
The whole team. And those numbers might be off by a few, but he was about a dozen pick and rolls shy himself of what the Warriors ran as a team. It's not the offense Steve Kerr wants to run. Warrior fans, by the way, we're begging him to. Why aren't they running a Steph and KD pick and roll? Why would they not run a seemingly? Because they want to do the motion ball movement, beautiful basketball, Spurs 2015, 2014 offense, and I support that. But the other reason they made this move is they saw what happened in the finals when Klay went out in that game and then missed a game, and when KD was still out. And when you can just focus on Steph, that often doesn't matter if they got a good defense in that situation, that offense grinds to a halt, right? And so they needed some other scoring. So I understand it, but let's not pretend that when Klay comes back, the Warriors are going to play Klay at the 3, they're going to run a 3-guard lineup. That's not what's going to happen. But we had Shaq on a couple weeks ago, And we were talking to him off the air about a different player, different team, different situation. One of the first things he mentioned was money. He said, who's making the most money there?
Yes.
And he was talking about it in the context of the money speaks more than anything in an NBA locker room. And Draymond Green's about to make $18 million. He has 3 championships, been to 5 finals, won Defensive Player of the Year, coming second twice. DeAngelo is 23 years old, about to be on his 3rd team, is about to make $27 million. Now, you give Draymond a max extension this summer, which I'm sure he would happily take, then that goes away. I don't believe the Warriors are going to do that. I think they're going to consider all their options next summer with Draymond. That is a recipe for disaster, especially when Iggy's not in the locker room as the adult in the room.
Calming force.
Calming force. Clay's on the training table, and Steph's getting worn out every night. So this is not risk-free for Golden State.
No, it is what we call a placeholder, but it's also protection for their star player. They saw what happened, and Bob Myers I got to get Steph some help before Clay comes back. Say he misses 50 games. Steph would be a different player. The defenses that he would see, we would go back. Remember we were saying in the playoffs, wow, haven't seen a defense like this since college. We would see a lot of college defenses going against the Golden State Warriors if they didn't acquire another guard, another elite scorer.
Quick fall from grace for the Golden State Warriors.
Chris brought up a really interesting team. We talked about this yesterday, which is the Spurs. They need a center. I think he's a good enough passer. He could do what they do, but they don't have cap space, and they don't seem to have a ton of interest. Dallas has the cap space. There's only one free agent left that is going to demand huge money. It's Kawhi. He's not interested in Dallas. Dallas might be in on Danny Green, but they could still bring in Boogie. But does Dallas want to play Kristaps at center, have him be their stretch 5? They haven't shown much interest in Boogie. I think Atlanta could be interesting, but it's going to be another one-year prove-it type of situation. Maybe he can get the deal Julius Randle got. Well, not this year, last year, which is 2 years, around $20 million with a player option on the 2nd year, so he can, if he plays great, then go try to cash in on free agency. But this is a tough spot. He did everything right as far as his Achilles rehab. He wasn't a distraction in the locker room. He was a good teammate. And then just like he popped his Achilles, he's trying to make a hustle play to help his team, and he tears his quad. And I know he came back, Chris, faster than anyone could have expected from that torn quad. But he didn't look like he could jump over a phone book. He looked athletically, and he was never a great athlete. Athletically, he looked like a shell of his former self. That's concerning. And so this is a tough fall for Boogie, but it doesn't shock me there's not a huge market.
But therein lies the danger sometimes when you do want to rush yourself back. Do you think going to the Warriors was the right decision for him to try to go out there and prove something in a year? Would that have been the choice now looking back?
Well, looking back on it, if I look back on it, I got to say it's a mistake. And the reason why it was a mistake, not that he went there, the mistake was rushing himself back early. Because then he had 2 major injuries. And the quad made everyone. That's what is keeping everyone back, because they saw the quad, they saw the lack of athleticism, but they couldn't distinguish between the Achilles, did he lose it there, or because the quad. I believe if he doesn't come back, I believe there are suitors for him because they didn't see that bad basketball that he was playing at the end of the season. So his chess move, that's what he said. Yeah. When he called the Warriors, Draymond and them, I'm going to join the Warriors, that magic carpet ride came to a crash ending. And he was forced onto the court because he wanted to be able to change the optics on his career. I believe he should sign with the Lakers for the minimum with Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis does not want to play the 5, has never wanted to play the 5, and him and Boogie Cousins, both of them together, played their best basketball together. So I don't believe it's one of the moves that the Lakers must do, but that to me is a logical landing spot for someone like Boogie Cousins. And just like IT a couple years ago, if you try to play injured, all right, your money, if you're in a contract year, they will hold it against you. So I don't see teams paying guys for being heroes. So if I'm an athlete, I'm out there, you need to watch yourself. Kevin Durant. You saw what happened to him, but because he was so good, he was able to get the guaranteed money. IT was not there in Boston in his career. Didn't he just sign for the minimum?
Yeah.
Like,
which makes
the amount of money that he lost. Boogie Cousins diving for the loose ball, tearing his Achilles, going for another loose ball, tearing his quad. He's lost a lot of money the last couple years.
And the other thing that hurt Boogie, and it's a relatively small sample size, but he did come back on January 18th. From January 18th to the end of the regular season, Boogie had turned himself prior to this year into a good three-point shooting big man.
Yep.
His last year in Sacramento, he was 36%. New Orleans, he's 35%. Last year, he was 27%. So if you don't have the athleticism, and if people are concerned...
No legs.
Are you actually a stretch five, or are you just a center that takes threes that can't make them? I mean, a poor man's Joel Embiid in that regard, and Embiid had a really bad three-point shooting year this year. That's a problem as well. And even though he's on his best behavior, I don't think people have totally put in the closet and locked away the concerns about the teammate and character and how he's going to deal with another year of emotional devastation and financial disappointment.
And that's the thing that Jenna pointed out. How can you repair from that? We went to the game in the Garden. He gets thrown out of the game in street clothes. Jenna's like, what the?
That's right. We just sat down, and he was already thrown out of the game.
How can you and the Warriors not winning and the turmoil that they went through was not able to repair the image. But good catch by you as far as Boogie Cousins and this not working out for him.
All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.